Well, good evening. If you're joining us live and you're watching on the replay, we want to welcome to this special episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. And tonight we're going to be talking with a really good friend of mine that goes back a lot of years. And we're going to talk about a new book that he has just rolled out and a training course that is pretty unique. And we'll talk about the background and what his plans are with this thing. So my guest this evening is Mr. Tom Urban, the inventor of the Chim-Scan, and I presume the president of the Esteban Corporation. So, Tom, how you doing this evening?
Well, is that any better, Jerry? I need a twin to help me with the fun. I'm doing great.
I hear you, bud. So it looks like you're sitting in your training center out there in Fairfield, Iowa. Would I be correct?
That would be correct. Yep.
Okay. So, like I said, tonight we're going to be talking about this book right here that Tom has just rolled out. And this is the Chim-Scan Factory Training Technician Training. So we'll be talking about that in just a minute. So stick around with us. We're going to play our intro music. We'll be right back in about 10 seconds. And we are back. So first of all, if you're listening to us tonight, there is a chat bar. And if you've got questions about this book or the course or whatever we're going to talk about, feel free to ask your questions. And Tom or myself will try to answer these live for you tonight during this broadcast. So Tom, let's talk about, it's been a lot of years since you swept that first chimney back there in the mid-70s, hadn't it been, brother?
Yeah, a wee bit. That's for sure.
A wee bit. I think we're up to about 45 years now. Would that be be pretty close?
Yeah, probably about 43. Yeah.
Okay.
Close enough.
Right. So what we're here to talk about and share with you is this new book that Tom has just come out with. If you could see, it is loaded with all kinds of photographs, language, diagrams, everything else. So Tom, let's start out tonight with what possessed you to write this book, this manual, this technical journal. What was your thought process when you sat down and decided, I'm going to write this technical journal? What was your thinking?
Since you and I have spoken, done seminars together for like 35 years. And as we always did through organizations, we put these programs together. And as time went on, in the last 5 years, we began to notice a trend that the actual training that was needed, that we thought was being, and we assumed was happening out in the field from owners to new employees, we started seeing a lot of crazy questions. And we began to understand that folks were not really understanding what's really going on out there in the field. So we took some of the things that we'd done from years before, we polished them up and cleaned them up. We went through the processes. And what we found out, Jerry, is that as sweeps were calling our company, Shelley particularly started to notice it, that there really wasn't a good way of explaining to people how to implement scanning into their company. Everything was pretty much just, we find, you're looking for hairline, you're looking for cracks in the chimney, you're trying to sell liners, but you really thoroughly weren't going through the whole process. That was really what we needed to do. So we went back and reviewed some of the things from the IRC. We looked at some things from NFPA, and then we began to put together the process of how to do all this. And all told, I think this is the first or second version. There's 166 pages in here. And lo and behold, I ever thought I'd read 166 pages. But it was really because we had to go through and we had to go break stuff down because a lot of things get really confusing. And if anybody said that sweeping chimneys or inspecting chimneys, especially scanning chimneys, is easy, is wrong. It is a complex situation and it needs to be broke down. By breaking it down, then we can start to address things quicker, easier. By breaking it down, we can do checklists. By breaking it down, we can do pre-written language. There's a lot of those things, and it's just we don't hardly even touch any of that stuff. Most of the things that we're talking about is here how to operate the camera and what you see inside the flue, or what you should be seeing inside the flue, so that the end result is that you'll be able to put together good quality photographs that you can share with your customers and also share within the office. So that was kind of the start of it, Jerry. It was just something that was bottling up and boiling up, and said we got to do something about this. So yeah, so this is what we did. Then once we got that together, then we wanted to make sure that so we're not calling it a certification, we're calling it factory training, but we put together a 100 question test, and it's open book. We want this to be a reference book. We want people open up, go look for things and find what they're looking for, question things. I mean, it'll be a live book. So like I said, we're self-publishing right now, and then probably go to bigger publishing later. But that was the key, is to make a reference book, because there just isn't anything really about scanning out there. There's a little bit about inspection. There's a whole lot about chimney sweeping. There's a whole lot about relinings, a whole lot about chimney repairs, but there really wasn't anything that people could really look at to do that. So the training was there. Then this is probably about the first test probably you run across that we actually have 20 to 25 photos that are in the test itself that tell you, what is this and where to come from and how do you address it. And that's pretty much it. So we multiple choice the questions for it. It's not that we're trying to trick you up. We just want to make sure that you totally understand what's going on, so that it's a continual reference. So that's what prompted us to get us going on it, Jerry.
Okay, so you said something a while ago, and I'm kind of going to build on that. I don't think it's that hard to scan a chimney. Let's get real. We stick a camera up in there. It's on a rod or it's coming down from the top, and that's a mechanical motion. We just got to push it slowly, and then the image is coming up on the screen. But I think the hard thing here is the analysis of the photo. What are they seeing it? And one of the things that we've always taught, Tom, is you got to build your opinions from cause to effect. And I think that's where this manual comes in, because you have so many color photos in here. It is almost unreal, because I was able to look at an advanced copy of this. I've had this probably 2 to 3 months. And when I got it, it's like, Lord of mercy, because you've got descriptions of what they're seeing. And not only that, you've got the language of how to report it to the customer. And if I am correct, the language that you are using has been sent through legal scrutiny and review. Am I correct on what I'm saying right now?
Yeah. Yes, it did go through legal review. About 6-8 years ago. And and like I said, you know as well as I do, Jerry, language is an evolving thing. So you constantly keep looking at, but the parameters and stuff that the attorneys told us how to write and stuff, that we still consider we put that in there. We're always looking at showing you this is a possibility. In some cases, if it's just plain, it's right out in front of you, and say this is what you got. But you're right. That was the key factors. Running the camera is not that big a deal, but what you see, how to explain it to the customer, how to put this together in a logical format that the customer can find it. Because as well as I do, Jerry, you coach a lot of companies, you look at things, where people really slip up is the implementation process of bringing the information back. And at this stage in time in life and the way our companies are growing, I mean, let's face it, back when you and I started, if we had a truck that had the same color fenders, we were happy campers. Today you guys got $50,000, $60,000 trucks rolling down with $20,000 worth of equipment into them. They're in a different paradigm than we were ever thought about being. So the concept of when you come into someone's house that you can implement this, you can tell them where you found it, you can tell them the possible causes that it happened, and the defect or the range or the degree of the defect that needs to be addressed. That's key, and that really is in this day and age has become really paramount.
Okay, so I'm going to read here, Tom, and I'm reading off of the first page, and it says, a note to the future Chim-Scan Factory Training Technician. Due to the differences in installation and their obstacles, we have segmented this manual and also the training course you did into modules to provide a step-by-step approach to scanning. These various modules include scanning for masonry fireplaces, scanning for masonry fireplaces with appliances such as a hearth stove or insert, scanning for prefab factory-built fireplaces, scanning for masonry thimble chimney serving appliances such as liquid fuel, solid fuel. And then we have scanning for prefab factory-built chimney serving appliances, again, with liquid fuel or solid fuel. Each installation type offers its challenges. We detail the differences between types of installations, including conditions to be alert for and the types of defects that are typical for each. The training modules listed above offer the technician a step-by-step assessment process for home progression, ingress into the system, diagnosis of defects, and cleanup. And then it goes further. On a national average, service company employees' records indicate that an employee has had 5 years working lifespan. Therefore, you and your employees' training can be fast-tracked using these modules. If you choose to complete and submit the examination at the end of this book, you will receive a patch, a certificate of completion, and other benefits upon passing. And this program also provides proficiency in using our camera system, and you can earn CEUs, which total 5 from both the National Fireplace Institute and the Chimney Safety Institute of America. So you've divided this into 5 distinct modules. That's for both the manual and for your course. Am I correct?
Yeah, we actually went out since that version, Jerry. We made some changes to it, but what we really started to work at too is not only do we, I think one of the biggest concerns that we see that people get confused is terminology. You know, is it a hearth or is it a fire or is it a firebox? Is it an outer hearth or is it a hearth extension? Prefabricated chimney versus factory built. And that all those little things seem like it's not a whole lot, but when you get 5 or 10 people or 20 people involved in a company and you start talking about factory built, and everybody's been trending on prefabricated chimneys or fireplaces, all of a sudden they kind of look at you like, huh? And it seems like it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. So we had to conquer that application. So each one of those 5 modules that we talked about, we put a chart inside there with all the different terminology there in front of you. We talked about the 4 pathways of deterioration so that people could, understand that, am I looking at latent defects? Am I looking at water damage? There's a lot of times for the classes I've done in the past, Jerry, and maybe you've noticed the same thing too, that everyone thinks that, chimney damage is just chimney fires alone. No, chimney fires are only a part of the other, latent defects issues. There's moisture issues, and we can go on and on. We're talking about condensation and other factors. So it was trying to get this all put into, when you're working on a masonry fireplace, you hone your skills. You're not talking about connector pipe. You're not talking about anything else that you see on a wood stove. But on a masonry fireplace, these are the things that you find. And do the same thing if you have an insert into it. These are the things, and your access points, how to get into it, that also had to be addressed. When finally we got to prefabricated fireplaces, they're their own different beast. So you don't have smoke chambers anymore, but you do have a damper. You may have a specific grate. So those things need to be addressed as you're doing the scan. So besides us doing the scan, we also, in this book, we put some parts to it that help you do the inspection process. So we broke it down for you. I'm just flipping through here myself and find a page here where I can show you. Where we talked about, here's the one up the top. On the bottom of it here, we have a thing about checklist working with masonry caps and prefabricated chimney cap checklist, and there's a whole list here, things that you ought to look at. These are recommendations. I'm not an authority having jurisdiction, but I put these things together in such a manner that if I'm talking about a prefab fireplace, and chances are I may be talking about a storm collar, or I might be talking about a different style of chase. So so we work this as a step-by-step process. Thank you, Stephen. And put it together so no one can get lost, because in this day and age, we need to grow. If we're going to grow, we're going to need to do it by unifying our language and unifying the process we collect the data and unifying what we say to the customer so that we can all be on the same page. That is super key. Everybody's running out there, doing, and this is America. So please don't get me wrong. I'm the guy who's got all the answers, because I don't, but I do. But I did spend the time to put this together in such a factor that it's step by step. Then you can put together what you feel it's important to put into your company and make it work.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
And Tom, this actually, as we're talking about this takes me back 20, 25, 30 years ago. And this was a time that you and we had started teaching the D&D course, the diagnosis and documentation course, that we still teach today under our umbrella. back in the 90s. And what we were doing was we were teaching people at that time how to analyze things, how to analyze what was going on, how to build from cause to effect. And also, a big thing was the language we were working with in those days. Now, this was prior to today's world, where today everybody is using what I'm going to call insertable language. And the thing is, what you've got to do is make sure that this insertable language that you're using is one that is understood. And it's also not going to put you in a condition of potential litigation or subrogation. Now, one of the things that you and I both do, Tom, is we see a lot of chimney reports. Would you agree?
Yeah, Jerry, we do.
You and I, in our capacities, get to review a lot of things. And Stephen, I want to thank you very much. When you say there that class changed everything, it was a great start. It really was, Stephen. I really appreciate this. And Stephen, also, I believe that Tom, haven't you sent a copy of this book for Stephen, and he's been able to review this? So, Stephen, if you feel like this book is an asset to people, if you would just type it in, since you are a person that has reviewed this, and there's no vested interest in you in recommending this, if you see there is a value here for technicians in this industry. As chair of the NCSG Technical Committee, your approval of this would mean a lot of saying, hey, this is a valuable book that everybody needs to have. So, Tom, I don't know if you saw it, and there Stephen just came back and he said, absolutely, everyone needs this. So appreciate your input there, Stephen, and that means a lot. So I don't know if you noticed a while ago, but Joe Will up near Pennsylvania, he said he had to put his kids to bed, but he was ordering this, and he said you were his first instructor when he went through the chimney sweeping school in Indianapolis back in 2010. And recently I did a training at Joe's company with some of his new people and spent a couple days up there in Erie, Pennsylvania, right on Lake Erie. So, Tom, writing this book, was it a challenge to you when you started? I mean, was this something that you decided last week to do? Or tell me a little bit about what it was like putting this together. And did you do this alone, or did you have people helping you?
First off, I started it myself, and then Esther would read over the things that I did. Shelly came in and started helping us, working on the diagrams, things that we needed to do with it, and then we got a ghostwriter, Karen Foreman, who's able to put the rest of this together and format it and get it to go. So between Karen, she's had like 35 years in this industry. Myself was at 40 some. There's like 75 to 80 or 85 years of experience that were the people, the three most prominent people. And we always, whatever we do, we give it to Esther to look at, and Esther looks at it, I don't understand it, or I don't get this. Okay, go back, we rewrite it. So she's always our proofer that helps us, kind of gauge us so we stay where we're at.
Let's hold up. Some people may not recognize Karen Foreman, but who we're talking about here is Karen Stickles Foreman. And Karen worked for Copperfield for a number of years, and she actually came to my business some years ago and rode out on some trucks with some of our guys to learn about chimney inspection, one of the things that we were doing. So having Karen's input, she also has worked for Lindema before, and she's right there in Fairfield, so she's been an asset for you. And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you have another editor came in behind her?
Yeah, there was once we Karen, got the layout and we worked on the formats and got that set up. Once you have that done, then we actually one of the first persons we did was we got Esther's brother, who was a nuclear plant trainer. So he was under the with nuclear regulatory committee. Yeah, he was on underneath the NRC. So whatever her brother Tim had done, he spent 35 years working and building PowerPoints for training for all the nuclear operators. So Tim took a look at it, and within a short period of time, he began to realize, hey, I really like the format. It was really good. He gave us some corrections. He didn't know the depth or detail, and he was surprised by that. Then we had another woman here in town go through it, and she read through it. She's was a newspaper reporter and also a journalist. So she was able to go through it. Then lastly, we also had Sarah look at it from Vermont, who owns her own chimney sweep company.
Right.
And Yeah, so Sarah was one of the last ones to look at. So there's 3 or 4 people that have gone through and looked at this before we say, okay, blow it out there. So yes, it is a huge process.
As
It is not easy.
Tom, as a person who's written and just rolled out my 9th book, a lot of people don't realize it, and I tell them write a book and get it down. But the neat thing here is, Tom, you have put down a pile of wisdom that's taken you decades to learn, and also what works, what doesn't work, and the language that you've worked on. So this is kind of like the culmination of a lot of years of work. So when you look at it, you've had editors that didn't know anything about this industry, and you had editors that knew a lot about this industry doing it together. And you know that the editors, whenever you have a professional editor, they can pretty well whoop up on you. Would you agree?
Smartly. Smartly. I'll tell you, there's time you go back and go, damn, I thought I explained that pretty well. No, I didn't. So that was the other thing too, Jerry. We have people within our field. There's lots of times. Oh, just the other day, Karen was putting some stuff together, and I said, Karen, you went from factory built to prefab. Which was it going to be? We have adopted prefabricated fireplaces so that everybody knows what we're talking about. Then we're talking about liners. And it's like, what kind of liners? Is it a masonry liner? Is it vitreous clay liner? What is it? It's because I said, I don't know who the person is going to read this. I wrote this in a manner. It's a detailed reference book, but insurance adjusters could use this. And a variety of home inspectors, a lot of people who want to know something about fire or chimneys and fireplaces and all the types of appliances connected to it. This would be a reference for them to take a look at it. So then we refer back to it. So so we had to make sure that the language in there was appropriate enough that anybody could read this and not get locked into jargon. So it takes a bit to do that.
Right. And you just said a key thing there, which is the use of the word prefab or the use of factory built. Okay.
Yeah.
Which my point of view, I prefer using the term factory built. You prefer using the term prefab. But see, that's something that each company can determine the language that they want to use. It's not saying you have to follow this process, but at the same time, here is a process to follow in order to get this done and communicate defects properly to the customer. Because, Tom, would you agree with me that many times the defects are not explained in a way that the customer actually understands? I see that as a big fault within the technicians of this industry, is they're using words and terminology that many times the average customer doesn't even understand what they're talking about. Would you agree with that?
You have seen them through your coaching practices. I have heard them from you, and I've heard it by listening to people on the phone. And it is a huge, thank you, Stephen. It is a huge issue, Jerry, because the problem has happened is we're all in the effect that this industry has been working and trying to get the, certification. I got this, I'm certified, da, 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 da. That's all good. I mean, don't get me wrong. But the problem is involving that the people do not explain to the customer what the defect is. They're so busy selling the product that they just don't talk about the defect. And, I have to go back and realize that people don't buy gasoline because they like to drink gasoline. They like to travel. The same thing you and I talked about that years ago. Why do you buy a Pontiac? Is it because you want to buy a car? No, you want to buy some excitement. Don't sell the steak, sell the sizzle. Don't sell, I won't even go to Yeller. But but the same thing. But people don't buy drugs just to buy drugs. They buy it to get to feel better. So, it is so hard right now when I talk to guys. Oh yeah, we got a liner job. We stuff. Oh, we got a special. And I think this whole jargon and spiel about selling, and it's not about selling until they understand what you're talking about. And that's how we wrote the book. We wrote the book so that you understand the defects. Because when everybody in the company understands the defect, selling the product's a piece of cake. And if you want to change the product that you're selling because of updates or this, that, or whatever, supply and demands, you can do that. But if you know what the defect is first, that is key. And that's the thing you have to implement, because a person in the office can understand an open mortar joint, and a person in the office can understand an unparged smoke chamber, but they may not know that you use this product for that and that product for this, or relining, or whatever the deal is. And I think that's where people really get lost, because it's interesting when you start to listen to techs start to come back and explain to you or they get hung up on the job and they don't know where to go, what to do, because they don't understand the dynamics of the defect and how to explain to the customer. So now they've got all this product out here, they got this, they got that, and they have no concept of what they do. So I think people who understand a defect and sell defect will be 10 times, 100 times better salespeople than those that just try to sell product. And I'm sure you guaranteed the clients that you work with, I'm sure see that as a goal.
Right. Well, again, if we went back early 90s, late 80s, all we ever talked about was safety in chimney fires and cracked tiles. We really, and a lot of times when I'm in classes, I tell people, we didn't worry about missing mortar between flue tiles. There was a time we didn't worry about if the smoke chamber was parched, because there were no parched smoke chambers. And then now we're telling people that you've got to get these things done. And we introduced words back in those days, Tom. If you remember right, we started using terms like performance-based inspections. We started telling people what you've got to do is inspect from 3 aspects. Yeah, safety is one of them, but performance comes into play also, and proper maintenance and the lifetime of the system, and understanding what's going on, why these things happen. I teach a lot of home inspectors now. I've done several home inspector inspection classes over the last couple of weeks, and I've got more lined up. And more home inspectors are getting into the world of chimney inspection, and they're wanting to know how to do this. It's kind of amazing when you see how many Chim-Scans, Molded cameras are actually being bought by the home inspection world. Would you agree with me?
Yes, it's growing.
It's growing. I mean, it's promoted as an ancillary services, and that's what they call it in the home inspector world. They don't call it add-on; they call it ancillary services, which is just a fancy word for add-on services. But when you look at it, right, they're doing sewer scanning, they're doing infrared scanning that we're bringing into the chimney industry today with our relationship with United Infrared, keeping them focused into their lane and training into what they're doing. When you look at it, but does this book teach these people how to inspect and look for performance issues? Is that part of the training that you're putting them through, Tom?
Yes, it is, Jerry. It is. In other words, we're just not talking about cracked chimney fires and cracks and open water joints. There's, the color of the liners. That's all into it. All the performance-based things that you and I talked about years ago is in this book, because you can't, in other words, the chimney tells a story. You just have to understand and read it. If you read the story, and the reading the story is understanding how the defect got there, or a probability of what caused the defect. Then after that, it's going to roll down into the conditions and things that they can do to repair that, to get it up. The bottom line is, with all the stuff I've done with inspection reports, is gotten to the point where it's got to be an operational ready application. And if it's not operational ready, then there's a defect someplace. So then you need to address the defect. So does everything have to be? There's a kind of an interesting part about this too, because I know this industry kind of likes to work on black and white, and then by God, if you put gray in it, that just throws it for a loop. And one of the key indicators is that you have to go enough with finding out the true source of what's happened. And in some cases, through the scope of the inspection process, you can just go so far, and you're going to have to work into a level 3. But the key factor is being able to know when to implement something, when not to implement something, and how to concisely and in a short time period tell the customer what's going on inside his chimney. And yes, so performance-based things that we talked about earlier, Jerry, that's all laced all through this, so
And when Robert's talking about gray, he's not just talking about Tom's hair, I'm sure. Okay. And, I got gray too. Mine's just so short you can't see it. Mine shears off. But anyway, what Robert's referring to here is opinions we call in the gray area, Tom. And a lot of times people think things are all black and white, and they're not necessarily so. So let me ask you a question here, Tom. Okay, you make a good product, but this book is not just for the user of your product. Am I correct?
We did too. We actually did too, Jerry. The first one you have in your hands, we created the one because obviously we want to honor our customers first. So we wrote the Chim-Scan Factory Training. That obviously it's completed. The course is online. It's on Google. It's all set, and we're often doing tests to this day. We have a second one that's coming out that's going to be generic. I don't care whether you're using Wohler, Snaplock, Rod Station, our stuff. It's all basically blended out so that everybody is covered under the blanket. So all I really did with this one here is I took out just anything resulting from my use of the product. We took out the specific things that were necessary for you to understand how to use the camera. But there's variety. It's a camera. I mean, most of them do 360. Some of them do. They all do something. So I just went ahead and we wrote a second book. So that will be coming out in not so distant future.
Okay, so let's get down to the gray tax here. The gray tax, Robert. I don't know why you're hung up in this gray stuff. You get gray headed too, buddy. So, okay. So Tom, let's put it down on the table. If somebody wants this book, how do they order and get this book?
You can order the book out from us directly. We have a Chim-Scan with Chim-Scan Factory Training .com. You can go to that. You can just go to Esteban and we can direct you accordingly from there to get it. Are the two ways that you can do it. Once you receive the book is $200, and it does include, if you want to do just the like factory training, the $200, $50 right off the top goes for the test, so you're taken care of. If you want to do this and you like to get the CEUs involved with it from NFI and CSI, then it's going to be $350, because not only will you get the book, you'll get the test, but you'll also get the opportunity to view all this on Jerry's platform. So I have 2.5 hours of me going through the book, pointing out things that you need to look at, and the last 2 hours to go ahead and take the open book test. So that's all protected under the 5 CEUs. So that's how that's done. So if somebody else in your company, if you want to buy just one book, that's fine, and share it with other ones. I prefer to.
Bart says he's turning chrome. Okay, chrome means he's shaving his head and he's shining. Then you have to put makeup on, Mike. Okay. So Tom,
where was I?
Okay. So let's clarify this. We are housing your course for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you want access to the online course, then what you've got to do is order that from Esteban. We do not sell your course through our online platform, and it's not part of our subscription. In other words, if you're presently a subscriber on this course, it's not part of our subscriber offerings. We are simply, you needed a place to house this course.
Yeah, I did.
And we had the platform where you could upload this. So what you would do is contact Esteban, talk to Tom, talk to Shelley, talk to Esther, whoever there. Tell them you want. Once you have made your commitment to them, they will then send us an email and tell us, and then we will give you access to the course. If you're if you're not a subscriber, we will set you up with this one course. If you are a subscriber, once they notify us, because we're charging them rent on our platform is the way this works. So then we will add that course to each person that you purchase access for. So Tom, to clarify this, the course online, is that got to be per employee, or does one purchase cover all the technicians in the company?
No, each one, because each individual person will most likely be needing to have, yes, each person will have to take it. It's not a company thing. It's each person will take it, because you're going to be the guys who's going to be looking in the chimney. Our goal is not to, really make super big money doing the whole thing. What the real goal is to get you into this book so that you begin to understand all the ramifications and all at the same time the opportunities that are just waiting to be corrected, so that people can burn and use their fireplace appropriately. So yeah, so let's say if they want the credits and stuff, Jerry, but just one book can be purchased, and they can use the book through all the employees if they so desire. So each technician that works in the company will just be it'll be $150. That way, I pay for the rent, and then pay for the course or pay for the test.
Right.
So
right
yeah,
now
so
on the screen, I put the website down that you can go to the website. You can make the purchase through the website if you want to do. And let's identify this, Tom, because this is something that you guys talked about. You are not certifying people. You are saying they are factory trained. Am I correct?
That's exactly it, Jerry, because I'm not doing the accreditation process with this right now. I'm just basically offering up a book and with information, and I want to have some way of understanding that you went through the book, you read the questions, and you understand the material. Once you understand the material, then I'm hoping it's going to be a huge benefit to your company. So that's why we call it factory training. I don't want people to say, "Oh, I'm competing with CSA or it's." I'm not doing that. My job is just to make sure this is a factory training with a lot of really good information in it.
Well, let's classify it this way. You've got your industry certifications. You could be CCP, you could be CSIA, you could even be both. And what this is, but we're going to say this is a merit badge that you're going to put on top of that, which I think is one of the big things in this industry that we've got to look at is we have so many people, Tom, and we see this, and they go through their certification and they take their test. But you and I both know that, and I think even the people that do these certifications would agree that there's more you've got to learn to become what I call a subject matter expert. And see, that's the whole thing. When I look at the information that's in this book, Tom, I got my doubts that many technicians are they're not going to know this stuff. I mean, they're really not. You've went into this so depth and to such a degree that people can look at this. I mean, when I look at it, Tom, right now I'm looking at pages here. Okay, so when I look at this picture right here, what it's telling me is this is light glaze. This is an issue with solid fuels. If only a tile or two have a light glaze, you may proceed to scan the flue. Count the liners and note the tile numbers affected in your report. Under that, I see puffy creosote for solid fuels. If you see puffy creosote similar in texture to expanded foam, the flue likely had a chimney fire that needs documenting with pictures and then swept clean. After the sweep, scan the chimney, note any damage or defects. If you don't clean chimneys, have a certified sweep do it. So that would be where we would have a home inspector possibly doing this inspection. So again, you even describe things. I'm looking at cobwebs. I'm looking at types of soots. And then I see one here is the stainless steel liner properly supported. So when I go through here, if you're looking at this is a handbook that technician needs to have in his truck. Instead of calling the boss and saying, hey, I found this, he can start utilizing this manual in the field to analyze what he's seeing. Have I pretty well said this the way it is?
Yeah. In other words, you could say to the guys, hey, I'm looking at this, and it's say so the first thing is they're going to have to figure out is how the implementation is going to go. So the owner of the company is going to have to say, hey, we're going to use this as our reference book. They run across the question, take a look at it. And what the cool part about it is, I'm running across this. Would you look at page 128? Go to 128, the office guy and whatever. Now you could do some things back and forth, Skyping or just emailing photos and stuff back. But then sometimes the explanation can be had. The cool part about it, Jerry, is I've taken the information, I put it into a resource that if the boss isn't there, that maybe the office personnel could take care of it. Maybe the operations manager can take care of it. And it's not all laid on the owner to take care of what's going on. Granted, probably the owner is going to be, have the most experience out of the company. Maybe he doesn't, maybe he doesn't. But the case point is that there's a documented process to go through.
Yeah.
Once you understand that, so that we like I said, we put cobwebs in there. I have a lot of guys who work with, home inspectors or forensic engineers who work, the chimney's never been used. They stick it up there and They get about 5 foot up into it, and the camera's full of cobwebs. Got to pull it back down and wipe it off. Well, now we offer them a Webster brush. Go take the Webster brush out. Go knock all the cobwebs out of the way so you can get the scan done instead of raising and lowering the camera all the time to get the cobwebs off the screen. So it happens.
Yeah, and Tom, something else I'm looking at. I'm on page 129 right now. So what I'm seeing here is you've got the references in here to the IRC. This is in the reference to creating the ideal joint is in the IRC Codebook M 1801.3.2 regarding flue passageways. For how to build with a flue liner, you can reference the following locations in the IRC book, and it gives 4 different locations in the IRC. So again, this is a reference because we're always hearing people saying on Facebook, and they're asking for, where do I find this in the IRC? Where do I find this?
Yeah.
So what you've tried to do is give them a manual. So just repeat the process. If this book is something interesting, I'm putting the website back up on the screen right now. They can simply go to chimscanfactorytraining.com, and Tom, they can make the purchase right there. Am I correct?
Yep.
So they can buy the book right there. Then
we'll send it out.
Right. Then once you have that order, how long is it going to take your people to get this book in UPS to them?
I got about 50 or 60 left from the last printing that we did. And by the way, things are looking right now, we'll probably have sent out another week or two for another reprint, and so we'll have available. So it'll probably only be about a week or two, Jerry. But whatever I sell out here, I've got I think I got close to 55 or 60 in stock right now.
Yeah, and then if they order the course, then Shelly, I know it won't be you, it'll be Shelly. So Shelly will send us.
Karen will take care of a lot of this too. So.
Right. Somebody will send us an email, then they will be set up for it, that kind of stuff. So Stephen just got another one. The checklist is the pathway. If they train with this, then the inspection becomes a process that all can do. Okay. And then I've got Robert Hoodie. Well, put these in our offices for our dealer support calls. So what he's going to do is he's going to get this book. So when dealers call our RLH Industries and have problems, but that's where this book's going to work out for them. Okay.
Yeah.
So Shelly just marked up, yes, me and Karen take care of this, because don't call Tom. If you call Tom I'm just going to tell you, if you call Tom, the ball might just get dropped. This is not one of Tom's fortes to do this. So
I apologize, guys. I can write, I can do things, but the other thing we did too is, I don't know, I'm on page 178 or whatever, but we've got actual photographs of people who have put in liners inside the chimneys or whatever, and this is what they've done. They put large screws in it, or this one here, we got to show you the liners unraveled. These are things. This is right out of the field stuff that's been seen. So yeah, we put this is what you're looking for.
Okay. And then he's going to encourage dealers to have their own copies and take the training. See. So that's good. That's what you do. So Tom, what else would you tell us about this book? Is there anything else you want to share?
We are, being in the industry for the amount of years that I have been in, realizing here's an interesting part about this too, Jerry, is that why this is kind of a unique application is that I began to realize that through the testing process of the certifications through both CSA or NCSG, there's very few, if not or very little, questions involved about scanning. And there's a lot that goes on with scanning, and as far as the diagnosis of things that go inside the chimney. So I began to realize that there's a tremendous amount of information that was not being pursued, and for rightfully so. Not everybody has a camera, so I'm not finding fault at anybody. It's just that's the way the factor goes. So I think my concept here is to help people implement the information, because there's a boatload of stuff inside chimneys. I mean, you agree with me, Jerry? I mean, I don't think any chimney is what you'd want to call simple, because you got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 14 or 9 to 14 different transitions that go through a fireplace. You got a wood stove. You got 8 or 9 transitions of things where smoke gases could be an issue. And so trying to think, prefab fireplace is the same thing. There's 6 to 7 different areas. Prefab chimney, again, you have a tremendous amount of those that also have transitions. Every time you and I both have looked at chimneys throughout the years, we have realized that when you go into a transition, that's where somebody screws up. Jam the pipe together, don't lock it. Don't put the right material together correctly, or don't put enough material if you're resurfacing or you're doing a cast in place. Jamming a liner in. How many guys have told stories of a sledgehammer beating liners in? All those things are just not meant to be done. So, and you see it out there in the field. So it's like, okay, we need to make this right. So that was one of the goals of the book, is we need to uniformly look at scanning and the diagnostic work that we put into it, so that people could explain to the customer in a very fast way what's happening inside the chimney, so that you give them all the data and let them make the decision. What kind of liner you want to put into it, or fix, or repair, or what you're going to do, how you put your proposals together. So it's not a selling book. It's just a book that's helping you gather all the data together. So when you make your presentation to the customer, it is, it's thorough, it's concise. I love the look of a customer's face when you say, I'm scanning it, okay, I'm liner 1 or liner 2. Sometimes they get excited about it. Sometimes they're not even there and they don't care anymore, but then you just say, these are the defects that we found and occurred in the process. We don't feel like this is a really great candidate. It needs some repair work before you continue use. Go ahead.
So, like I said, how many hours you think you got invested in this little project of your own?
I could probably look at, Karen's been on it for about 2 years. So that's 250, that's close to 2,000 hours plus my time into a training. There's probably close to 3,000 or 4,000 hours.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. And when I look at this, believe me, I'm a person that knows what it takes. So here's what you need to do. I'm going to put that address up again here. And what you need to do is go on the internet and go to here. And what you need to do is this is something that, do you agree, every technician needs to do this? Every technician needs this. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Right.
That's
why we did this tonight. The whole thing is, Tom, let's get real. I'm on no commission from you for this book. I mean, I'm doing this to help you. I called you last week. You were sitting on a riverboat. You and Nestor had taken a couple of days off. Said, hey, man, let's do a broadcast, because I think it's that important to get this word out and for people to know this resource. When I look right there and Steve Hoover doesn't know this, he just, like he said, he's glad to know about this resource. So that's what this is all about. So, Tom, if you don't mind, I'm going to give mine a shameless self plug here for just a minute, okay? So, what?
It's okay, Jerry. I've known you long enough. Go for it.
That's it. So we recently just completed this book at CVC Success Group. It's called Safety for the Service Technician. And that's myself and Robbie Murphy. We rolled that out. We also have a 5-hour course on this about it. And we cover 60 different potential hazards. And Tom, this is the hard thing. As I researched this safety thing, it's amazing. And all the bad things that are happening out there, how many accidents are happening a year? How many fatalities are happening? How many lost work days there are from people getting injured? Even in a factory like yours, somebody could cut a finger off. They could dislocate things. They could have a lot of bad things could happen sitting right there inside, short of just slipping on the ice there in your Iowa winters, right?
Yes. I tried to cut my thumb off. I know.
Right. So we want to get that book out too. It's not near the cost of what Tom's is. This one we sell on Amazon for $9.95. And if you want multiple copies, we sell them to CVC Success Group. You can go and email us up, and we sell them for $4.97 a piece per Tom. Here's your good one, Tom. There you go. You remember that, Tom Thumb? Did you not? That's right. I'm glad she brought that up. Did you not have a severe cut in your factory? Is that in my imagination?
No, I did.
What was it like?
Go ahead.
What was that like for you? Didn't you have skin grafts to that thumb or whatever?
Yeah, I had. It happened to do because of the glove and a heater in the shop. When the shop was zero, I had an auxiliary building and I had something away. I was using the table saw, but the bottom line was, I cut my thumb, broke it in 4 places, and I ripped most of the skin in the flesh away. So the only way they could redo it is they literally cut me open, stuck my thumb in it for 2.5 weeks, so that it actually grafted skin and things on it. So today it's almost like 8-9 years since I did it. I can feel this, and it's not nearly as bad. I don't have, so yeah. So I had a very severe accident doing it, all because of a glove on a cold day, and it was 0 out there.
So anyway, seriously, get Tom's book. It's going to help your technicians. It's going to help you be able to analyze what you're seeing. It's going to take your people up to a higher level. So again, place that order out there. Get it with Chim-Scan Factory Training.com. Well, Tom, I hope you've enjoyed our our conversation night like we always do. And I hope that we see people start to add these in to their personal libraries very, very quickly, my friend. And most of all, I'm going to tell you something. Like I said, as a person who has written books, it's not an easy task. It's much more. It's much more than you thought it would be, probably, and you have to go through a lot with the editors and all those kind of things. We've had a lot of people watching us tonight that have taken in. We want to appreciate the likes we've got. Dave Levitt, Brent McDowell, and your daughter Shelley for liking this. Listen, folks, if you think this is valuable information, if you would, share this on your own social media. Let's get the word out, and let's get our technicians trained up to another level. Tom, anything else you'd add before we check out of this broadcast tonight?
Keep it safe, Jerry. That's what we're trying to do, make sure that it works and keeps it together for people, so that we can all make it an enjoyable opportunities for people to use their fireplaces, and at the same time offer services that people really do need. So that was the intent. What I did, how we put this together. And yes, the interesting part about it too is as much as you have writing the books, you understand that you get a concept and a stream of materials, you put that stream in there and you get it all done, and then you look at this stream and you look at that stream. Then about 2 months later, you go like, man, that sucks. So you got to go back and you got to redo it and then come back up with it. So yeah, time is a real consideration when you're doing these. So
right.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so also I see that Steve Hoover and Robert Huda have also just given us likes. So guys and gals, we appreciate these. I appreciate you tuning in tonight. Hopefully this is our mission here on the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, is to share processes that can help you in your business, help to simplify things, help to make you more productive, work safer, and where you live to enjoy those dreams you have in life. So with that, from Tom out there in Fairfield, Iowa, and from Jerry sitting here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, we appreciate you joining us. And I'll see you next time on the next episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network.